is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, volunteered for the MK Ultra mind control program. Now, I'm not talking about the MK Ultra mind control program of Netflix hit show Stranger Things. I'm talking about the real MK Ultra mind control program that was carried out on college campuses and other facilities across the country in the late 1960s, from San Francisco, California, to Austin, Texas, to the Chicago Business School in Chicago, Illinois, to Harvard University on the East Coast, to MIT. And so you'll hear people say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that Charlie Manson was a Satanist, or it's a conspiracy theory that Hollywood was into Satanism. That's the headlines. But if you go back to the 60s, there was a law enforcement craze, they called it, that law enforcement was claiming there was all this Satanism. No, there was Satanism. There was massive human sacrifice going on. And it was being done to enter in the new age to have Lucifer exterminate 90% of the world's population and then have humans merge with machines and become the new God-men. Now, I talked about that in my film 10 years ago, Endgame. Suddenly, this last week, there were London Guardian, Associated Press, Reuters stories about, oh, this tech head from Google has left to start his new worship the AI cult, and all these famous people are part of it. Oh, he'll be the leader now. It just came out of nowhere. It's the same plan. It originated in London, England in 1855. It is a long-term world government project whose end game is to exterminate the majority of the world population to save the earth. And then they're going to have the enlightened folks move forward, transcend. And I have a stack of it right here. And they just think you're stupid. They just think you're complete and total morons. And that you're not going to understand this. This is their religion. This is their program. It's to shut down the family. It's to destroy Christians. It is to pull down civilization and society, just like the French Revolution tried to do. Overthrow decency, overthrow success, overthrow beauty, overthrow honor, desecrate it, blaspheme it. And every day there's TV ads saying fathers are bad, masculinity's bad, families are evil, get rid of them. This is the program. And you've got all these zombie-like acolytes that everybody got to witness this last weekend across the country at more Antifa demonstrations, who can't even talk and just scream and yell and grunt and flip people off. And this is a program. So you hear the same thing out of Charles Manson, the same thing out of Theodore Kaczynski, the same thing out of these guys, because they came out of the same colleges. They went to the same college. And Manson was part of a CIA mind control program. He wrote songs with the Beach Boys. He knew most of the big Hollywood stars. He was invited into their houses because he was a bag man for the CIA who was delivering the drugs into the circles to begin the mind control operations. And Hollywood knows this. They've put movies out, kind of a modern fiction, contemporary, but based back in the 60s and 70s in California, where it's the FBI that's actually handing out the drugs and the LSD, because that's who was actually doing it. But again, it was compartments of the FBI. And Jack Parsons and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and all of them having big sex orgies. I mean, this was the end thing to do, and they were able to use Satanism and drugs as a program to really take over a lot of civilization and compromise people in human sacrifice. And then it goes into pedophilia. Sharon Tate was married to Roman Polanski. We'll be back. I'm Alex Jones. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, the 20th day of November, 2017. Well, Charlie Manson of Helter Skelter is deader than doornail. Cult leader, murderer Charles Manson dies at 83. Now, back then, it was really weird and crazy to have somebody on PCP and LSD running around killing beauty queens and coffee baronesses. It was a big, big deal. It was shocking. But nowadays, everybody's crazy. This is the godfather of the Antifa movement. This is the godfather of the modern environmental movement. This is a man that wanted 90% of the world's population to be exterminated by a world government. And a man who wanted to ignite the breakdown of civilization by causing race war, playing different ethnic and religious groups off against each other around the world in a divide and conquer strategy. The truth is, Charlie Manson was inducted into a higher level CIA DARPA mind control program and inserted into the highest levels of rock and roll, movies. He knew all the major folks, co-wrote songs for the Beach Boys, the list goes on, and was delivering large amounts of pure weapons-grade LSD to campuses all over California. Then the wind-up toy either went off the rails or was ordered to carry out the murders. We don't know still to this day, but he was CIA, 100%. They had mind control programs going on right here at the University of Texas in the 60s and at other major universities. Charlie Manson hung around the same university that Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, went to and volunteered for the MK Ultra program. It's kind of like volunteering to jump into a hornet's nest, because once you're on those drugs, there's no more volunteering because you didn't know what you were getting into. But this is the program. Sex, drugs, luring in the police, luring in the FBI, luring in all the different politicians to get dirt on them. And what was big and bad and evil in the 1960s to the Puritan America? Devil worship. But if you could get people to worship the devil, to have sex with super hot movie stars, well, next it was, we need you to kill somebody. And that's what Charlie Manson was about. He was one MK Ultra tentacle that went sideways. And then they used it to create the whole new popular culture where it's so cool to be whacked out of your brain, a shaman who knows everything and can do everything and has got your cult of trendies that go from being hippies to being cold-blooded murderers. That's always what it is. First they get you peace and love and nirvana and you can do anything, and all of a sudden, but there's a price to pay. There's always a Dracula in the shadows. We can put Sharon Tate up behind me here from one of the horror movies she was in, and movies about Satanism, and movies about human sacrifice, and movies about burning men, and movies about royal Rothschild estates, and the estates dying, and there's poverty in the village until the owner of the estate is willing to be sacrificed for the good of everyone. I mean, this is nothing but French Revolution, Jacobin manipulation. The whole revolution you're seeing is French Revolution Part 2. They saw we were launching ours in 1776 for the real New Atlantis, for Sir Francis Bacon, the real Rosicrucian order, esoteric Christianity. And they created their counterfeit, which is just every flavor of rebellion, death, degradation, and it's all about psychopathic men being able to have women and others programmed and under their control to do horrible things. And boy, Charlie Manson was jealous of the cult above him. He was getting kicked out of that cult. They weren't being nice to him anymore. So what did he do? He went and killed their high priestess. He told people he did too. He went and killed their goddess. He went and killed who they thought was the #1 woman in the Hollywood cult of Roman Polanski and others. While he was out of town, they killed her and they killed his baby. They showed him what would happen if Charlie Manson didn't get to stay in the cult. Charlie Manson created a list of people that weren't partying with him anymore and weren't, buying his LSD anymore. And he went in there and he killed them. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story of Charlie Little man Manson, all that stuff he was saying. People are like, wow, this guy's really smart. He's spewing everything that the eugenicists and the globalists have been spewing. That's their religion. Charlie Manson is a whacked out, street level con man that they used to go around and control people because he was expendable. He was just one more little power tripping person that thought he was God who wanted to be a cult leader. When all he really was an icon being created to introduce the second Jacobin revolution inside this country. And see, if you know the group, if you know their religion, if you know their program, overthrow the family, break everything up, then you know why you see the shaving ads out where men are bad. We must stop toxic masculinity. That story's on Infowars.com. You know why we're saying you can't say the word mother and father. You know, that's the new word to be banned by Facebook, saying it's hurtful. You think I'm joking? They're moving forward with it. Don't be stoic. Don't be a rock. Don't be strong. It actually says in the ad, be weak. It actually says it's time for a new definition of masculinity, and we're going to tell you what that definition is. It's a silent ad. You have to go see it at Infowars.com. This is their program. This is their operation. Overthrow everything. They've got 25% of the population on psychotropic drugs that are in the hallucinogen class. They've now got weaponized marijuana being put out to the George Soros movement that is hallucinogenic. And I'm not calling for making marijuana illegal. I'm a libertarian. They want to have the dialectic of putting the drugs out and having you use it and putting you in prison. I'm against that. But people need to understand that this is a very, very serious situation and is part of a larger operation to put you into a near dream state so that you're not really conscious. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. If I wanted to come on this show and talk to you like they do on NPR to put you into a trance, I could do it. But on purpose, I have a grating voice to get you out of your coma, to shake you free out of it. You know, if I wanted to, I could talk just as sweet and just as pretty as all these fake people, but I don't do that. I let you hear my real voice. And it's everything they hate. It's masculine. It's grating. It's like an alarm in the night. It's like a Marine Corps drill sergeant. But I'm not copying a Marine Corps drill sergeant. Drill sergeants are trying to encompass the classic status of a male instructing people in serious, dangerous things that affect their life so people listen, so they understand what's going on. So you've been warned. So if you've got what it takes, you'll listen. If you don't, you were warned. We did our job. Coming up, we got a bunch of clips of Charlie Manson. You'll think you're listening to Al Gore talk, the original SJW, and so much more. This is going to be a jam-packed transmission. Newswars.com, prisonplanet.com, and Infowars.com. It is an act of resistance to the globalists when you hand-share those links because we're being totally censored. Well, Charles Manson is dead, and that is the big story around the world. And if you study Charles Manson and the Manson family and what went on there, it was the fact that the entire country at that point had been turned into a CIA mind control laboratory. The universities were being flooded with hallucinogenic drugs. The owners of Time Life and others on the East Coast since the 30s had been taking LSD since it had been discovered in Switzerland. But they were taking a lot of other drugs, and these are the most straight-laced, richest people in the country. If you go to the history books, they were taking LSD, they've been taking peyote and other witches' brews for a long time. But there's a headline right there, The Time in Life of an Acid Trip, how Henry R. Luce and Claire Booth Luce helped turn America onto LSD. And again, that's the publishers, some of the biggest publishers in U.S. history. So again, these are old people in suits and ties, decades before, in the late 30s into the 40s and 50s, taking hallucinogenic drugs, part of cults, part of spiritual cults. And they weren't all devil worshippers, but it was a lot of really heavy stuff. They then developed a plan by the early 60s to flood all the major universities after they tested the drugs on people inside the CIA, inside the military. Top generals all took it. They then set out on a plan that had already been set up by the British to set up the world government, then shut down the family, start flooding the population with pharmaceutical drugs, and to come out with pharmaceutical drugs that had you in an LSD state, but you were still somewhat conscious. You weren't seeing hallucinations, but you were in a dream state, but still somewhat conscious in between those two states. And by the way, if you're a radio listener, while I'm talking on the radio, the crew is just typing in what I've said, CIA, flooding the streets with LSD, and we're showing you History Channel. We're showing you Associated Press. We're showing you Time Magazine. This is all incontrovertible history. There's San Francisco Chronicle. When the CIA ran an LSD sex house in San Francisco. Well, that's just one sex house. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it's really just because the people at the CIA wanted to have whorehouses in every town that were taxpayer paid for that they could enjoy. And a lot of girls were showing up in L.A. and San Francisco to be movie stars, so they would be there and just pick them off, the Greyhound buses and induct them into CIA operations, use them as sex operatives, you name it. And this is a big story. But Charlie Manson is only just one guy they put into things, and he wrote not just one, but several songs with the Beach Boys and other bands, and he got to know the main Hollywood crew, and he got to learn not just from the CIA and the drugs he was being given, but from all the different cults in Hollywood, how things ran and who really ran the world and what the plan was. So when you hear a guy that probably took LSD over 1,000 times, looking completely insane, looking like a cross between a homeless person and a guru, gibbering all this, you say, where does he get it? He got it directly from their battle plan. Yeah, there's the founder of the Beach Boys with Charlie Manson right there. So this was going on. And they had Charlie Manson types who were the gurus over the universities in every city. And again, that was somebody, if things went wrong, could be destroyed. And the reason I mention all that is coming up in the next segment, I'm going to play a bunch of clips of Charlie Manson, and you're going to go, wait a minute, this is everything the Democrats and Al Gore and Antifa and George Soros says. And then you see Alex Soros at all these parties, drugged out of his mind, spewing the same crap, and they're carrying some lady in a coffin behind him in one photo. They're spirit cooking. They're doing Aleister Crowley magic, just like Jack Parsons and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory out there in NASA. They literally went and bought the biggest, oldest Gothic mansions they could all over the country and had eyes wide shut parties, and they got the mayor, and they got your daughter, and they got your son involved. And that's how they took over. And that's what we're dealing with, folks, is a bunch of pedophile devil worshipers today. Because now it's not sick enough to just, have sex with hot chicks on altars. That's just the entryway into it. It gets much worse, the blood drinking. But that's not enough. You got to ship out factor 8 to millions of people with HIV and hepatitis in it and give it to everybody. And you got to legalize giving blood if you've got HIV in California to spread that. That's human sacrifice. And you've got to sexualize children at a young age. And you've got to give them fluoride. And you've got to give them Prozac. And you've got to give them Ritalin. And you've got to bombard them with GMO. You've got to slowly sacrifice the whole planet. So, Charles Manson is a Renfield that blew its gasket and thought it was a Dracula. That's the best thinking. We know he worked for the CIA and other groups and was protected. And he blew a gasket and thought he was Dracula. He thought he was the big, powerful leader. He thought he was in charge. He thought he was the big Lucifer, and he was going to launch the big global meltdown and the worldwide extermination. And you go out to these Antifa parades, and they all, men and women, look just like him. They're crazed, they got an evil spirit in them, and all they want to do is hang you up by your toes and rip your guts out and roll around and hit them on the ground. And if they can murder a pregnant beauty queen, murder one of the favorite girls of Dracula, then that kind of makes you Dracula, doesn't it? And that's why he's praised by the lower level minions. Because they, in the psychopathic order, want to be Dracula, you see. They want to be the archetypal Dracula, the Prince Charles, the direct line of Dracula. They want to be on the throne. And you know what? This little Renfield, he killed one of Dracula's wenches. That makes him a big man. We come back. The SJW, grandfather. The LSD, CIA, MK Ultra, monkey boy, Charles Manson, ladies and gentlemen. Ha! The whole story, the rest of the story. Hidden news from 40-plus years ago, now revealed today. Because you don't just get tomorrow's news today, or the news of 10 years ago that was hidden now today. You get it from thousands of years ago, hidden. Until now. Infowars.com, newswars.com are our main sites. They're under constant globalist attack. The enemy is doing everything they can to shut us down because we can see for miles.
We are on the march. The empire is on the run.
Well, Charlie Manson's dead. And his death gives us a window. And his life gives us a window into how the globalists operate and what their program is. And if you go back to, again, ancient Japan, just with sex and opium, they had different schools of assassins where people would volunteer to want to be part of the different societies. One of them was the ninja. It's not just in Hollywood movies. Who would then go kill a high-profile target after generally a decade of training after being accepted, and then would commit seppuku after they killed the person they were targeting, because then you couldn't tell who carried out the murder. Now, that was with opium and sex. Can you imagine what the Luciferians, the psychopaths, can do with the high-tech drugs and now microchips and electroshock and things that are way, 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 way past the things that have been declassified? Then they have hit TV shows like Stranger Things that takes real programs and exactly how they do it, telling folks you're doing a drug trial test, and 9 months later, you know, they cut your baby out of you and say that there was a miscarriage, and then induct your child into mind control from the day it's born. Skinner and a bunch of these other top psychologists and psychiatrists famously would do things like raise their own kids in cages. But it was okay because it was called research. And all it is psychopaths and hundreds of different programs being funded to develop new technologies over the mind, over the body. And now you see how Pavlovian it is that, oh, when you get an update from Facebook or Twitter, there's a ding on your phone. And it's all been Pavlovianly tested. The perfect little ding, the perfect little vibration, the perfect colors, the way it's presented to give you a dopamine rush. And then the head engineers go on television and tell TED Talk, we're abusing people, we're mind controlling them, and this is only phase 1. Why would they tell you that? It's not because they're so good. It's because there's metaphysical rules they follow where they believe they have to tell you what they're doing to you, or karmically it comes back on them. So they will warn you, hi, I'm Count Dracula. Can you invite me into your house? You know, you really shouldn't invite people in you don't know, but would you invite me in? Well, sure, you seem like a nice fella. What twinkly eyes you have. Come on in. Now he can come back any time he wants. That's why there's all these articles admitting screen time is mesmerizing you, screen time is lowering your IQ, screen time is putting you into a mesmerized, close to sleep state. Oh, there's all these big mainstream articles, 5YG, 5G, all this stuff is literally frying. It definitely gives you cancer, but it's okay. We're going to put them in every classroom. We're going to put them in your house. We're going to put them in all the new appliances and all the new cars where you won't have a choice. And we're going to track you in real time. We're going to tax you. We're going to control you. And we're going to oscillate the 5G waves that DARPA, about 17 years ago, in the Baltimore Sun, just had the craziest article interviewing DARPA going, yeah, we're putting up towers in Maryland, just on the cell towers, and that are going to send out some waves, some higher waves, higher powered waves, just testing, that could look at calming the public in the future. And the article went on, DARPA created the internet, and they're good people in the advanced laboratories, and it's just, and that was a test. Put it in the newspaper. You open the newspaper up. One time they admitted they put oscillators in the cell towers that they've got studies out on what you can do with these systems. Birds will just fall out of trees and won't care if ants eat them. They can make you just go to sleep. Flip a switch, everybody just, whoa, lies down. You don't think the Pentagon doesn't want those type of weapons? And you don't think the globalists that put fluoride in the water and all the rest of the stuff to hurt us wouldn't use that? And they know we know about fluoride now and the adjuvants in the water. And they're moving away from that program because they know most of you are filtering your water. And they're going to electromagnetic. Just like Dr. Nick Begich just said, we should get back on the show very, very soon. He said, forget the chemicals, Alex. That's the child's play. Because they have to, get it into your body. They're going with 5G technology. He said this 15 years ago. But don't worry, LA Times just says slight increase in tumors. No big deal. Slight my butt. 3G is so strong that it can look through walls when it's bouncing back at its receiver. 5G can give you total color through multiple structures. And it's been on helicopters for decades, flying around looking through your walls. They had particle beams 30 years ago mounted on helicopters, flying around frying people. They used it in the Panama attack. They got everything. And there's this whole walled-off civilization that now is growing to the point of emerging. And when the global government emerges, when this emerges, that means everybody starts dying. See, it's being built, siphoning off our resources, taking control of us, dumbing us down, playing us off against each other for decades and decades and decades. But now it's going to the point where it's about to be born. And just like an alien from the movie Alien, it's been laid in your stomach. It's been feeding off you inside. Now when it comes out, you die. We die. When it's born, we die. That's their religion. We have to die before they can have their new age world government. Oh, what comes after smartphones? Brain implants, maybe. See, mainstream news. They've gone from it'll never happen, Alex Jones is insane, there's no DARPA plan to do it, to it's been done to over 10,000 troops, they admit so far. And now they're saying, hey, just get a chip. It's quick, it's easy. And my uncle has one. And it helps him not have epilepsy from a motorcycle accident. But the point is, it's all Trojan horsed. It's all first gen. It's all being deployed by the globalists. We're going to go to break, come back, and play the Charlie Manson clips. We have a bunch of guests coming on. But that's what this is all about. And if you're conscious of the engineering, we can stop it together and be aware of it. But it's all being rolled out by the tech giants. They announced this weekend they're going to have a one world religion based on worshiping AI. And everyone will have to submit to it. Other religions will be banned. You can't criticize any other religion, and then you've got to just make them all one big thing. Just like they tell you in the movie Tron. Everything is them telling you. The big giant mainframe, and it's grabbing in all the other programs. Put him on the grid. Let him play for a while. And then blow him away. There's something different about this one. The new church of the AI God is even creepier than I imagined, CNET says. What did Elon Musk warn you in the last few months? He goes, watch out for tech leaders coming out and saying AI gods. I can't get into it. I've signed non-disclosures, but it's dangerous. We're all in danger. We're all in danger. And the left's like, I can't wait to merge with it. Yeah. Now, don't say mother and father. Masculinity's bad. It's literally, be weak, be weak. You will assimilate. You will assimilate. Resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. They're just telling you. And then their minions look like meth head Charlie Mansons that can't talk. They're slaves. Okay, let me get right back into the news. So, the scientific elite, starting in the 1850s in Britain, with the main governing system of the world at that time being the British Empire, made the decision to establish world government. True world government, not just empire. And they decided to use science to do it and always be so ahead of everybody else that they couldn't be defeated, not just militarily, but culturally. Where there aren't any families anymore. People are programmable. That's the final revolution, is what the globalist technocrats call it. And they've written books, they've written white papers, they have conferences. They had a consensus 160 years ago. This plan was publicly launched 170-something years ago, and they had a consensus. Just a decade later. And so that's why I'm so frustrated. What I'm telling you is what they've said. That's why when you hear Charlie Manson, you go, that sounds like Ted Turner, or that sounds like Bill Clinton, or that sounds like Al Gore, or that sounds like Lord Rothschild, or that sounds like Prince Philip, or that sounds like Prince Charles, because that's what their religion is. You're animals, you need to die, there's too many people. But then they grease the skids to make us as dumbed down as possible, to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy. And they drug us, and they poison us, and they do everything they can. Paul Watson has the article on Infowars.com. Charles Manson, the eco-warrior who wanted to kill humans to save the earth. Notorious cult leader wanted to wipe out 50 million to stop the polar ice caps melting. Remember the global warming Al Gore stuff? This was all on the universities then when nobody else had even heard it yet. It was a cosmology they were formulating, and they were drugging the best minds of the best families coming into a new age cult, they thought, of the Christ energy. And right behind that was a bunch of social engineering psychotics that just like to sacrifice people, have sex with the best looking women, and be pedophiles. But you saw what happened to Roman Polanski's wife when he wasn't off raping little kids. Charlie Manson dropped by to kill her. Because she was their golden girl, Sharon Tate. I've researched it. They loved her, boy. The Illuminati loved her. Loved her a lot. So, that's what this is all about. And if you want this type of scum running your life, then go ahead and drink the fluoride, take the microchips, give your kids the smartphones all day, because this is their plan. They're carrying it out. They are executing it. A satanic, one-world government, computer-run system where it's illegal to be a Christian. They said that in 5 or 6 publications yesterday. They said, oh, the new AI God, it'll be against the law to be superstitious or believe in imaginary gods. You're going to worship our AI or you're going to die. And it's going to run your life. Oh, but this young tech guy whose family was CIA and whose family were U.S. diplomats, he just went decades ago and won an award with DARPA and then went to work for Google. That's the guy who's behind the new AI cult. Same story with Zuckerberg. I mean, they're just front men to make it look, oh, our little American whiz kid just came up with this. You know, they got Charlie Mansons to pass out the drugs, and then they got the Zuckerbergs to make it all cool and fun at the universities, like something he came up with, when it's all run by these people. So there's a lot of these clips, and they're posted on Infowars.com in Paul Watson's powerful article, but you've heard all this before from Al Gore and everybody else, but here it is from Charles Manson. Charles Manson, Geraldo Rivera. Here's an interview from back in the 80s. You can find Manson saying this stuff in court, you know, in 1970, 1971 when he was convicted. Where was he getting it? Well, he was hanging out at the same college as Theodore Kaczynski in the MK Ultra program. They admit he was in the MK Ultra program, folks. So here it is, Charles Manson.
No, reality is they did what they did. They're responsible for their own actions. I'm responsible for my actions.
Ever kill anybody?
I've come off with clothes a few times.
Come on, didn't you, Charles?
What did you come on, didn't you, man? I ain't lying to you. If you think I'm lying to you, you're wasting my time and your time.
Okay, let's not lie. Let's be
There's
cool.
no reason
Let's
to.
be straight.
There's no reason
What
to.
are you guilty of then?
I'm guilty of, what am I guilty of? I'm guilty of thinking that I had rights in a courtroom. That's what I'm guilty of thinking. When my fathers died in all them other wars, I thought, man, I just stand in the courtroom and tell the judge it'd be all over in 15, 20 minutes. I'm busy. I got some appointments. And it started making money. And when it started making money, whoa, money takes precedence. They're going to put me down on the ground for the money. As long as they make the money, they don't care who did it. Who did it's not important. And if I had done it, it'd be worse than if I hadn't. Okay, consider.
I don't understand.
Yeah, well, consider. I tell you like this. Yeah, I chopped up 9 hogs, and I'm going to chop up some more, you mother. I'm going to kill you as many as I can. I'm going to pile you up to the sky. I figure about 50 million. If I could get about 50 million of you, I might be able to save my trees and my air and my water and my wildlife.
You ready to kill 50 million people?
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket to what's really coming. Yeah, that's just a drop in the bucket to what's really coming.
Yeah, we know. Bioweapon plague releases, you name it. You've got electromagnetic systems. You can flip a switch. People just go to sleep. There'll be a bunch of skeletons they got to come in a few months and clean up. They'll just have to secure the nuclear reactors and some of those other facilities, and they're gearing up for that. They're gearing up for it. So just know, if we can't stop them, and you're seeing 1 billion die in 1 week, and nuclear war starts and a bunch of stuff kicks off, no, they did it all. They're in their bunkers. And you know what? You deserved it, because they've been gearing up. They've been getting ready. And what did he say? He said Europeans are evil. Europeans are bad. Europeans have to be done away with. What do the globalists say today? That's just dominant globalist Europeans wanting to get rid of their competition. It's helter-skelter. They want global race war. And they want to put Europeans back up against the wall, getting a bunch of outside groups trying to kill them, so a lot of the Europeans will then accept the extermination program that's going to kill everybody who isn't white. And you've got the Asian groups and folks working with the globalists, deciding who's going to be on what team. You got the Chinese developing race-specific bioweapons, and that's all aimed at us. And this is serious business. And I've got a bunch of other clips. Charles Manson, global warming. Charles Manson interview. I should have killed 500 people. Charles Manson, let's stop polluting. Charles Manson says he wants to have a one-world government. Let's play that Charles Manson wants a one-world government. Then I'll come back and play more of these clips. Here it is. Charles Manson wants a one-world government. Here it is.
Man doesn't back up to his fear. He goes straight into his fear. We've got to get a one-world government. Yeah, we've got to have it, man. Yeah.
This is just the bombed-out little drug delivery guy, the CIA, who heard all this, you know, at the Satan orgies, and is now up here being our guru. He's just repeating it when what's he look like? An inbred meth head. He looks like an Antifa, doesn't he? We're going to come back with more of these clips, ladies and gentlemen, but this is who we're facing. This is who we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before I go any further, if you don't financially support us, Soros will win. Plus, we got great products you really need. That's the real reason you should get them. And we're launching, as we do every year, gigantic specials. We have our biggest specials around Christmas and around Black Friday every year. This is free shipping, just extended. People love the free shipping, so I'm doing it for another week at least. But that's not really what's important here. We're going to have a 34-hour live broadcast next week again because Vice and others didn't like that, so we're going to do another one. It was very popular. Got about 1.5 million new listeners and viewers during that, so it's very, very successful to reach out to new people. We're going to start doing those since they don't like them and try to demoralize us. That's coming up on Monday. But this week we got 50% off, but these sales are only going to run each item for a couple days because a bunch of them are close to selling out. Like I told you, Knockout was sold out for a few weeks. We had it back to full price. We got a small shipment in. Should get more in the middle of December, but our great high-quality product is back. Same thing happened with the Brain Force. It's 50% off, and again, free shipping. Pro Pure, 25% off and free shipping. Super high-quality water filtration system. It's all there. Also, Carnivore, our new digestive enzyme, top of the line. When you're eating all that turkey and beef and the rest of it, to actually help absorb it, and not have it rot in your guts, and actually get the protein and micronutrients and macronutrients from it. 33% off, introductory price. And our new Flora Life, a digestive probiotic formula, is top of the line. We have 2 different dosages of that at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. We're committed to you. When you buy these products, you're committed to us, and we win.